Okay, so now I'm going to go back through and finish tagging the rooms, placing and tagging the rooms at the basement in the new phase. So I'm going to pull up my work level 0. I don't really have a work level 0 new plan. I have my L0 new arch that's on the sheet, so I'm going to duplicate that view. Then you have to remember when you duplicate to rename the duplicate, because otherwise it's always going to have that copy of in the front. New architectural. I want this to be work L0 new. So then I can turn off my crop region here so I can see the whole basement. And in this particular copy that I'm working off of, I didn't get that powder room placed, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw in some walls here real quick. Home wall, and I'm going to look for the partition, 5.5. Now, those aren't new walls, they're existing, so I'm going to go ahead and just select them and change them so that they got created in the existing phase, and they don't get demolished. I should probably go to my work level 0 existing for that. And then I want to pick up that door. So I'm going to place a door. I'm just playing catch up from the fact that my test here I hadn't had all that. So this would be door interior single. And we get to 28 by 80 that I should have placed in assignment D. The door tag. Change it to 45 because it's an existing swing door. Okay, so here's my new plan. I'm going to close my hidden. And I'm going to need a room separation line. I can tell already to separate my utility room from my new garage. Here's that line. Place a room. And I'm going to start with this over here as basement 001. So if I change it to 001, basement, unfinished basement probably. And I don't need the area. I'll change that to name plus number. And then I should have a CMU wall down here, so I'm going to go back to my existing plan. And I didn't make my CMU wall. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to use the 4.5. Okay, so I've got the basement placed there. I'm going to place my old garage here, 002. I don't want to have the area, so I'm going to change it to name plus number as I'm placing it, which will save that. And then I want this. It's not smart enough to pad the single digit number with 2 zeros, so I'm just going to go back and fix that. This is 4, that's 5, and this is 6. So this is old garage, 002. This is powder, not to be confused with Powder Magazine where you store gunpowder. This is storage, 003. And fortunately we don't have 7 rooms in the basement, otherwise we'd have James Bond down here, 007. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on if you're a James Bond fan, I guess. New garage, 005. Okay, now that is my new basement plan. If I go back to my sheet here, let me just pull it up. I think I closed it, A101. Close my hidden windows. So now, why don't I see my rooms here? Somebody refresh my memory. Why am I not getting those rooms? I know I placed them. I tag them. Yeah, I actually have to tag them in this view. Now, that's another issue. It could be that I have VG and I have tags turned off in the view, but in this case, it's actually what you were saying, RT. In other words, I need to actually use the RT shortcut to create place tags. So I activate that view, and if I do RT, then I can start placing tags in this view. And if I'm impatient, I can do the tag all, which is a fun little shortcut. And I want room tag, architects, name plus number for all the rooms that don't have a tag already. And there we go. Now this one, because the X is off of the outside of the crop region, in order to tag that basement, I'm going to have to, temporarily, I'm going to turn off my crop region, and then I can tag it. I'm going to just move the X so that it's inside the crop region and then recrop. Then I can do a room tag, and it finds it. So it has to be able to see that little centroid of the X in order to be able to put a tag there. So there, and it remembered the names and numbers, so I don't have to fix that again. And then I can turn off my room separation lines. I could either go to VG, or I could use the shortcut again where I select it and do VH to hide that category. And then deactivate. So now I'm done with Sheet A 101 for the purpose of assignment K. I'm going to go ahead and change my project status in the title block to K. So now if I go to D101, since that's a project parameter there, it changes throughout the project. And then I'm going to go ahead and update that date there to November 3rd. Now that's an individual sheet by sheet parameter there, so I want to change both sheets to 11/3. Or if you want to put the date that you turn it in, which would be the 10th or 11th of next week. And I'm going to save what I have. I'm going to pause the recording here, but I'm not going to finish it. Recording back on here. Okay, so again, just to kind of review the room separation lines, to get them another color so that you don't forget to turn them off. Let's go to VG and turn them back on here so we can see them. And it's under Model Categories Lines. So this is where there's a little bit of what appears to be a contradiction between VG and Object Styles and Line Styles. If I go down here and recheck room separation lines, I see them. And when you get them out of the box, they're just going to be black thin lines. They don't stand out visually. So you would think you'd go to Manage Object Styles like everything else, but if you look on this list, you don't find lines anywhere under Annotation or under Model Objects. They just aren't there. And part of the reason they probably do that is because there's two types of lines. There's model lines, which are 3D lines in space, and there's detail lines, which are annotation that only appear in each view. So if they put the same set of line styles under model objects and annotation objects, that would be confusing. So instead what they do is they separate them out into line styles. So you go to Manage Additional Settings, Line Styles. And then you find the room separation. You change its thickness, its color, and its dashedness, if that's a word. And that same set of line styles is used for model lines and detail lines. But in the case of room separation and space separation, area boundary, and sketch, those lines only appear in certain situations. Like if you're sketching the outline of a floor, that's how it knows that that sketch line is going to be magenta by that setting. But you can't just draw a sketch line in a view. So you can't have detail lines out of some of these with the carrots around them. What I don't like is they put demolished in carrots, but it's really no different than the one that's just, well, demolished is special, but hidden. This one with the hidden and the carrots. Then they gave us hidden lines, and you cannot delete these line styles because they're built into Revit. Now I actually add more line styles that I set up in my projects that are standardized because I don't like the fact that it's lines, medium lines, thin lines, wide lines. I change it so I have a series of numbers, and I say wide, thin, very thin, based on that number. But
and those are the object styles?
No, they're in line styles.
So how would you change those?
I can go in and add to the list. I just can't delete the ones that are there. So I say new, and I say, and how I do it is I'll say the color first, like black, solid, and then I say W01, meaning the smallest width, and then I say that's the thinnest line style. And when I do that, then they come in order from thinnest to thickest, and you just go down the list and pick the one you want.
Have you ever labeled them with a function?
Do in the case of
line or
yeah, in fact that's close to the one I use. I use one that I do for easements and for building setbacks, and then I just put a detail line in my site plan. And that way, if I say, well, I want my building setback line to be a longer dash, I don't have to go in and say, instead of hidden, I want hidden a quarter or hidden an eighth. I just redefine that style. So, you know, in a case like that, I'd say new, and I'd say building. So then once I decide how I want it, if I decide to change it, I just say, okay, I'm going to change that from a 1/4 inch long center line to a 3/16 long center line, and I do that, and it changes project-wide, because just like object styles, this line styles dialog is global to the project. And that's why I went in there to change the color and the weight of my room separation, so all my plans have that. Whereas, again, if I had gone to VG to do it, I could, but VG is just an override in that view, which means it's an exception to the way it looks in the rest of the project. So if I come down here and I say room separation and I override it and I say here I want them to be kind of a teal color, then that only changes them on this view, not on other views. If I go to the work level 1, they're still that peach color. I'm going to undo that last change I made here. Okay, I'm just going to pause for a second to give us a, whoops, I don't mean to finish, I'm just going to. Okay, so now let's go to our demolition plans. I'm just going to pull up the D101 sheet here. And then I'm going to, and remember these views aren't cropped, so we can see everything. I'm going to start on level 1 here. I'm going to activate that view. Now we've already, whoops, these walls need to be attached. I just added those. So I'm going to attach top base to that floor. There we go. Okay, now this gets a little bit tricky because we've got openings still in the demolition phase. So we're going to need to put room separation lines in here to even get it enclosed. So what Ann had happened earlier, where she said it's not in an enclosed region, that's going to happen in the demo plan if we don't do something about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by copying the rooms from my new plan into my demo plan, and what it'll do is it'll paste them into the demo phase if I'm in a demo view. So I'm going to go to my work level 1 new, and I'm going to try to select all the rooms that are in the existing house. And I love this filter. I boxed in everything, filter out everything but rooms and room tags. Then I say, okay, I don't want the breakfast room because it's only in the new edition. So I shift to remove that and its tag. And now I'm ready to copy and paste all those rooms into my demo plan. So I do Control-C, Control-Tab back to my activated demo plan, and I go to Modify, Paste, Align to Current View, which really is going to align to the same floor level, but it's also going to make it in the phase of the view that I'm in, which is demo phase. And now I've got Matt on those 2 rooms. And if whenever you get one of these little warning messages, if you want to read more about it, hit the little list-looking button here, expand the warning dialog. Then you can expand each part and say, okay, warning 1 was about the hall, warning 2 was about the family room, and sure enough, that's this room and this room. And if you wanted, if you had a really long message with a lot of stuff that you'd have to kind of go through and check off as you find solutions to it, you could export that list out as an HTML file. I don't need to in this case, but just wanted to show that was there. So now I'm going to have to enclose this room, this hall, because the wall got demolished. I'm going to scoot that down a little bit there. So to do that, I need to place a room separation line. Well, what's weird is, remember the phase filter of our demo plan is show previous plus demo. It does not include showing the new stuff. So if I create something new in a demo plan, it's not going to be visible because I'm filtering out the new. I'm only showing the stuff that's still there and the stuff that's being demolished, which is highlighted in the heavy dashed outline. So I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Place a room separation line. I'm just going to be careful to draw it across there where I think it needs to go. And it's mad because it's overlapping with that wall at the end. I thought I'd get that message that you get when you place something that's not visible. That didn't tell me that, but I know that's the case. Now that room is enclosed. You can see how it kind of short circuits that there because I placed the room separation line right there. Revit has a little bit of forgiveness if your separation lines and walls don't quite close. If you have a gap, the rooms don't squish out of those gaps unless the gaps are big. And I think there's a way to change the settings on that. Let's see, no, that's area. Yeah, it's under, I think it's under Manage Additional Settings. No. Well, maybe you can't change it, but it's a little bit of forgiveness built into it. So now this guy, now see, because that tag had an area on it, it says not enclosed. It knows where the room is, but it can't calculate area because it's spilling out into open space. So when I go back and go to my room separation line and place one from there to there, now it's telling me it's not visible in this view, which I'm not surprised by because I just talked about the fact that, well, that's a new room separation line in a demo plan. And if I wanted to see it, I can go to my, let's escape out of that here. I can change the phase filter just temporarily. I have to be careful about this, so remember to fix it again. If I say show previous plus new here temporarily, then I can see, and here's the reason it's still not enclosed, because I forgot to put that one over there. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw another room separation line right where that wall got demolished. Well, technically I should draw it across here and down there if I really want the area to be right. So now it picked up on the area, and if I go to show previous plus new, it's working. It doesn't really matter that that didn't quite trim to the corner. And I don't really want to see square footage on that anyway because it's an existing room. So I'm going to change it to the tag that just says name plus number. And then I want to change the name to, let's see. What is that? Existing old kitchen is what I call it. So change that to old kitchen. And it's still going to be room 106. And now the proof is in the pudding. Let's check our sheet A101 and make sure that didn't change what that's called in the new phase. And it's still called FEMI room 106 in the new phase plan, but in the demo phase it's the old kitchen. So that way it's done what I wanted it to do. Then I'm going to select one of those room separation lines and do a VH on it so that I don't see those. And actually, the thing I need to remember to do is change it back so the phase filter is show previous plus demo again. Now it's really a demolition finding. So now, one of the things I promised to show is what happens when your tag is too big to fit in the room at a particular scale. And because this sheet is set up with those plans, overall demo plans at 1/8 inch, that tag is too big here. So I'm going to try to just pull it outside of the room and see what Revit does. Well, it gets mad. It says a room tag is outside of its room. And it's telling me enable leader or move room tag within its room. If I move it to the room, I haven't gotten anywhere. But what was that other option it was mentioning? It says enable leader or move to room. So if instead I say OK, then I can, with that tag selected, I can check this little box that says leader. And now I get a leader coming from my tag, which is outside of the room, but it points into the room that it's tagging. And then one more thing I need to do, because we loaded this tag, when you want to add an arrowhead on the end of a leader for a tag, that's something that can't be done before you load it. You have to do it in the project. So I select the tag, edit the type, And up here where it says leader arrowhead, and you won't get this when you're editing a tag family. You only get it when you're in a project where that tag has been loaded. I'm not sure why they did it that way. It's a little bit of a pain. And you'll see there's filled dot small. That's what we want to use. And so now I've got a leader that points to the powder room there. Scoot it down a little bit. And I'm going to move living room now down to here. Because I only placed it up there because on my new plan we wouldn't see the rest of that part of the house. So any questions? I can do the same with hall here. But because I have a stair in this file, I'm just going to leave the hall tag right there. The other thing I do in this tag that I had you load is I made the box just a little smaller. And I scooshed the box together. The out-of-the-box tags are just kind of really too spaced out and too big for my taste, and I like this font better.
If you wanted to edit that little box around the number
and
make it a different size, how would you do that?
Then you would edit the tag family. So if I select that tag, which is again called Room Tag Architects, I select it and I can hit Edit Family, and now I'm in the Family Editor. And remember, with our countertop, we had extrusions, we had all these shapes we could do. Well, when you're in the Family Editor on a tag, which is an annotative family, this button right here tells you what category. It's room tags. Then you don't have all those other tools. You just have lines, symbols, dimensions, and text, and that's pretty much it. So then I can select this box, and I can say, okay, I want to make it a little narrower, so instead of a 1/2 inch wide, I'm going to drop it by 1/16 to 7/16. Then I'm going to select the one on the other side, and I'm going to drop it down to 3/8, 6/16. Then if I go load into project, it says, do you want to overwrite it? I say yes, but I don't have any parameter values I need to change. I've just changed the graphics of it. So now the box is small enough that it changes everywhere in this project. And because that's the same family, it doesn't matter whether I'm talking about the one with the area or without. So if I go back to my new plan, the boxes on those tags are smaller too. But you kind of saw when I had this family open, it looks like a mess there. And this comments is in the wrong place. But it's built so that when you go into the different types, wait a minute, that's not right. Oh, that's collapsed, that's why. There's a bunch of check boxes that say, show the number with the box, show the comments, show the area, either with or without the box above it. And that's how the types are set up. So there are yes, no parameters that say, I want this, I don't want that. And you can even do that on a door if you say, okay, I want a kick plate, I want a push plate, I want to show the closer. You can add those features in and out of different types within the same family file. And I'm not going to save that, but I'm just going ahead and leave it the way I had it here. Actually, I'm going to undo reloading, and that puts my box back to the other size it was.
These lines right here.
Those right there?
Yeah.
I think that's probably due to the floor. That's a good question. Dan's question is, if you just don't want to see those lines right there, especially on this plan where we're not talking about the floor material or anything, that is a floor. That's my existing floor. That is my new floor. And in between there is probably, if I change this to shaded with edges, there's the floor, and in between is actually just, I'm looking down at the top of the foundation wall. So really what should happen first is I should edit that boundary and move that line down to touch the other floor. Don't want to attach floor. So then I'm down to just one line, but I still don't want to see that line. Let me turn off my room separation lines and BH those. So I still got a line here and there that I don't want to see. So the answer to the question is, that's one of the cases where you just kind of white it out. But rather than using a masking region to white it out, you use this line work tool. And that's in the Modify tab. It's right here, line work, or LW for short. And that's when you just want to fix something in one view. So you say, okay, I want that to be a different line style. In this case, I want that line to be invisible. So I change it to the invisible lines line style, and then I click it. And because there are two elements that share that edge, I have to click it twice. And now it's gone. And I can do the same here. That's the edge of my floor. And then this right here is the edge of my new floor. And then I escape out of that. And so now, if I go back to my A101 sheet, everything should look just the way I want it. And that looks like the way I want that floor plan to look.
That's just in that view.
Exactly. So if I go to my working view now, and the fact that I had the view up like this, it was the fact that this is the same view that's on the sheet. If I scroll up here, that's my L1 new Arch 064 view. The sheet here, that view is my L1 Arch 064 view. And I can tell by looking there, that's the L1 new Arch 064. So if I go back to my L1 work L1 new, that's L2, work L1 new. I still see those lines, and even if I VG those off, those lines haven't been rubbed out. So you have to do that in multiple views if you want it to be that way. And so they're just little fudge tools like that line work and the fill regions, masking regions that you can fix things that don't look right. So that gives you the tools to do the demolition plan and name, and that takes a little bit of, might take a little bit of practice for some of you because we're dealing with those phases. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. This is the same. This would be placing rooms in